Hello YouTube. I want to look at a game which I played in May of 2019. So it's always interesting to analyze games that you've played that long ago because, well, when you look at the moves, if you feel like you played really badly, then that probably means that you've improved quite a bit. And, well, the game started with c5. So here the main move and the move that pretty much guarantees white's advantage for the next several moves is d5. My opponent, however, played knight c3. Now, I know it says this is the Horwitz defense, but it can transpose into the Franco-Sicilian depending on what database or engine you're using. So after knight c3, well, this is almost like a Scandinavian reversed. After I take and I play knight c6, now my opponent is wasting a tempo to bring the queen back. And well, here the d6 square is kind of weak, and that's why I played a6. I didn't want to play bishop before because I didn't want to give up the pair of bishops, but in hindsight this is probably a lot better, and actually Stockfish agrees. If a3, well, then you just double the pawns and you have these doubled isolated pawns, and this pawn is also isolated and weak, so that should give more than enough compensation for the pair of bishops, which as of now are still undeveloped, and well, black is ahead in development. So a6 is kind of a waste of a move. And after knight f3, I played h6, which again looks like a beginner's move. The point is that I want to get, well, not get red, but prevent the pin. If knight f6, then I didn't want to have to deal with bishop g5. But sometimes the cure is worse than the disease, so I mean, if I had this position today, I would play either knight f6 or d6, or maybe even bishop e7 first and then knight f6 instead of pushing the pawn. And here my opponent went bishop f4, and now I play d6 because if I play something like knight f6, well, there is this annoying move, and after we trade bishops, well, the queen is really annoying. I could go for something like queen b6, putting pressure on this pawn, but that's kind of risky. Much safer is queen e7, and if we trade queens, there's really no danger for black. After d6, we have this wasted move, a3, so I think that my disadvantage of playing these two silly moves is not so bad anymore. Much better was just to play e5, and here I think Ripka likes g5 and queen b6, putting pressure on this pawn. This bishop is going to come to the g7 square and put pressure along this diagonal, but there's still the problem of this pawn, which is being attacked twice and only defended by the bishop. So it's a rather complicated position. I know the engine says that white is much better, but it's an interesting position. So I play d5, bishop goes back, and now I go knight f6. And here I played another move which I just don't like. I should just develop with bishop e7. So after knight h5, well, I'm not actually winning the bishop because there's this move bishop h4. Although there was this possibility of knight takes, and well, there's this in-between move, knight takes, and another in-between move, which makes things kind of complicated, but I mean, I don't know which side I would take, honestly, because, well, you don't really want to castle with white, because now this rook has a nice semi-open file. You usually don't want to castle on the queen side because, well, these pawns are not really going to offer any protection. And, well, black does have the bishop pair, but these two pawns are not that great. And then there's this isolated pawn, so I don't know, it's kind of a mess. But after bishop e7, there's really only one good way to capture. Knight takes is actually the worst move. Queen takes is the best move, followed by king takes, believe it or not. But knight takes is just blundering, because you have this move, and after captures, queen takes, and you are hitting this pawn. You have an extra pawn with white. This rook is gonna come to the d file, and you can look at the evaluation. This knight is better than this knight on e7, so queen takes pretty much the only move. And now knight d5, which is annoying because now the queen has to go back. Now you don't want to go to d7 because you're going to block the bishop, so you have to go back to d8, which is unfortunate. Now here my opponent tried knight takes on e5, but there is a difference, and this is a blunder, because after knight takes, queen takes, there is this nice move, bishop g4, and the queen is trapped. Now in the other position that we had previously, there was a knight on e7, which means the queen could go to h4, but because the knight is now on this square, well, there is no way for the queen to go anywhere. And so my opponent tried this trick, knight c7 check. Obviously he wanted me to take with the queen so that he could go queen h4 and save the queen. Better to lose a knight than a queen, but the evaluation is still pretty much the same. So I did not take the knight. I just played king f8, and I'm still winning the queen. You could capture the bishop and then capture the rook, but this is still hopeless. So my opponent tried one last trick, knight e6 check, hoping I would take with the bishop so that the queen could go back to, I don't know, e2 or d1, but after I captured with the pawn, my opponent just resigned because, well, he's gonna lose the queen anyway. So yeah, the opening wasn't that great for my opponent because he didn't play the most challenging line, and well, I got pretty much 2 extra tempi to mess around with these 2 pawn moves that don't really accomplish as much as other moves would have. So yeah, I've learned to not push those pawns unless there's a very good reason, and in this game I don't think either of those moves was justified. So if you like the video, please do like, share, and subscribe, and thank you for watching.